All right. Well, I suppose I should start off by saying if you watched that last video, I had introduced an IDE that I'd kind of been happy with before working with Python, but it only took about 15 or 20 minutes till I remembered the things I don't like about IDEs. Uh, all that stuff that the IDE does for us is things that I don't have control over, and I ran into a problem not too far into that. With linking to another path. They tried to install another Python environment, and I had trouble linking them together. I found where to add a path to multiple Python environments but it still didn't work, and I was just frustrated. I was like, well, I'm going back to just a text editor and command prompt where I know I have control over it. So back over in Notepad and PowerShell, but yeah, we'll probably scavenge some parts out of that IDE later. I very quickly remembered what it is I don't like about IDEs. So, we're ready to put some objects together, or actual objects. So, I'm over here in the folder where we've been working with our test 2 for testing a 2D game, and I just brought a copy of that thing from the last video in, which will generate the classes, kind of generate a starting point for putting the classes together. In particular, all the getters and setters, because it's kind of a pain to type those. So that's really why I put this together, so that I would have that in a text editor, a normal text editor, and not have to go to a fancy IDE. So back to the text editor, because it did not take long till I remembered that. So here's our previous version. And I also, so we're ready to make the objects and just generate the starting points and make some slight modifications to them in order to get the exact classes we want, which I've spent a little bit of time organizing that. I've copied the diagrams over to their own sheet here in draw.io. And yeah, I guess we'll start with our 2D objects here. So let's zoom in on this and take a look at those. So if I zoom in here, the basic idea, not that. The basic idea is that there's a stuffed 2D object that has the position, a sprite, which by default has this thing empty SVG, which is an SVG, a transparent SVG with nothing in it. So all it does is create the SVG file, but a blank image to load into. Width and a height attribute, and this is going to handle the rendering, the getting the bounds, and adding scripts when we're ready for that. And inheriting from that is going to be a background, which, well, so far our test has tiles. However, your 2D backgrounds could also have rolling backgrounds or just a single sheet. So I went ahead and threw those in here. We'll just do the tile one for now. And taking an array of images, which is really just, don't even need that. I'm going to use, if I can get my cursor in the right spot, Shift, Home, take out that line, because we just use the array of images here. And then the character has the speed, the is moving, and the frame the animation is going to be on, and the move event. So let's get started generating these objects here. So I'm going to, over here in Notepad++, I'm going to create a new script that will create these objects from that class generator thing we created this morning. Which, since I'm using it here, if you didn't see that last video, I will link to it where I put it on GitHub. It's just something, it just writes the classes, so takes in a module, class name, parent, some other stuff, and then gets the starting point and all the getters and setters, because that's the one I don't particularly want to type, because we'll have a lot of inheritance going on here. So that means we need to use the double underscores and then getters and setters so that we can handle inheriting everything. So we'll import it into this new script here. Go ahead and save this one. right here, I'll call this make classes. Whoops. Let me try that again. Save as make classes.py. It does need to be a Python script in order to run. So I'm going to call that method. So start class, and then we need to pass in some stuff. So what module do we want? I'm going to call it game objects. Then need a name to pass into it. So I'll call it put name. This is going to be the stuff2d object. This one right over here. Then it's going to have a width. Oh, it's going to have attributes. I don't know why I jumped right to width there. Then it's going to have some attributes passed in. I guess I should split this up to multiple lines. Attributes it's going to have will be an array. I can go ahead and put the closing parentheses there. And for attributes, it needs x, y, sprite, width. I don't know why I jumped to that immediately, and height. So that's x, y, sprite, width, height. Just going down the list there. And I'm going to hit backspace to make that a little easier to read. Home, backspace. Or make it back to one line. I just did that to make it easy to read there at first. So that should create our starter object. So if I save that and come back over to PowerShell and go Python. Oh, I put a space in there. So make, so I need parentheses. Make classes.py. It'll run that, and we should have this folder here with game objects. There it is. Or this script game objects should be in our folder now. So it just generates all of this. But we need to make some modifications. We'll need some default values. So I'm going to start x and y at 0 for default. The sprite, I'm going to set that by default to this thing, images/empty.svg. Just a blank image that, because we don't need it, but to have something there. And then width and height, I actually want to get rid of. I don't want to pass those in. I want those to be calculated from the sprite. And this is 16 by 16, so that will never be 0. It won't cause issues in for loops or anything if we use the width and height. But I just wanted to get the width and height, so I wanted the getters for the width and height. So we'll have to come back and make some adjustments and add a couple more methods in here. Might as well add those in. So it looks like the first one we need is going to be a render method. Define, whoops, my cursor ended up somewhere else for some reason. Define render, which needs to take in a game object. Well, obviously it needs to take in the cell first, then a game, the Pygame display object, so that we can use the blip method, then an XY, and for now it's just going to say print render method coming soon. And we'll actually put it together before too long. What else do we need? A bounds. So we'll define a bounds method, which is going to return a tuple with our x and y. I only put 2 here in the UML because I ran out of space, but it's going to return x, y, width, and height. So that we can, or x, y, x plus width, x plus y plus height at every point in time, at the particular point in time we're looking at. So again, we'll need the self method, and that's all we need for the bounds. And for now, just print bounds method coming soon. And we'll come back and get that when it shows up for adding it into the game. And define add script, which we have definitely not done yet, but I know I'm going to want a place to add custom scripts into any object we have in our game. Print add script coming soon, and we'll just do that whenever we're ready to do that. So it looks like we're coming up on 10 minutes, so I will render the other two classes we need here, the background and character 2D. Also created a scene object, but we don't need that just yet. And we'll do these two in the next video, and then start putting some of these methods together, and then bring them in to this test2D test2 script, and replace this original stuff with the new updated objects we're creating. So I'll see you in the next video where we will continue this, just using this generator to generate basically our init, and then all the getters and setters, set up default value, go back, put in default values, make some adjustments, because that should not be an image, that should be a pygame.image.load. That should be a surface. So we'll have to set that up, and a little bit of adjustment still, but a whole lot of the tedious work, like all the getters and setters, are there. So I will see you in the next video when we get our other two 2D objects set up.